Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. This is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And you know, it's one of them situations where there's a lot of excitement about the new Lord of the Rings project's movies. Obviously, after the huge disappointment that was Rings of Power over there on Amazon, hopefully Andy Serkis's hunt for the Gollum out there will actually bring a little light back into the franchise that is currently absolutely floundering because of what Amazon and Jennifer Salke have done. So the real question has been with these new Hunt for Gollum movies and everything else that they've got working on in the project right now over there at Warner Brothers, who all will return. Now, we already know that Sir Ian McKellen has said he would absolutely gladly return for Gandalf because honestly, he doesn't want anybody playing the character. But the real question is as to whether or not John Rhys-Davies, aka Gimli, will actually end up returning, because he has said several times in the past that he absolutely abysmally hated all of the makeup and all of that kind of process and stuff like that we've gone through. But obviously, we know there's been a lot of technological advancements. A lot of things have changed. We went over during one of our live streams talking about the actor that played Nightcrawler. Now that he's coming back for the new X-Men Marvel stuff out there, he says it's so much better now. The makeup doesn't take anywhere near as long as what it used to. It's a lot easier, all of that kind of fun stuff out there. So the real question is, who all will end up returning for these movies? Well, it looks like we've got an update from John Rhys-Davies himself, aka Gimli. Because as you can see over from the headline over at Fandom Pulse, John Rhys-Davies reveals whether he will return to Middle-earth as Gimli in the future The Lord of the Rings films. So obviously Gimli was an absolute fan favorite. A lot of the fans absolutely fell in love with the character, and John Rhys-Davies just brought it to the screen in a wonderful and fantastic way that is arguably probably the best adaptation of any source material that we have ever seen, and probably one of the greatest trilogies, if not the greatest trilogy of all times. And of course, it would not have been what it wasn't without John Rhys-Davies' Gimli. So of course, a lot of fans would be very excited to see his return. The real question is, will he or won't he? So boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to check out this article from Fandom Pulse, getting all of the juicy details of exactly what he has said, not only in the past, but what he has also said just literally a month ago. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 1,900. We are heading our way towards 2K once again, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Would you love to see Gimli return? Would you love to see him return in these Hunt for Gollum movies? Or do you think that's something that would just detract from all of his wonderful experiences in The Lord of the Rings? Or are you all down for shoehorn everybody in there that you can possibly can so we can all see all of our wonderful characters and it's just member berries all over the place? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. Also, let us know, do you have any hope for these movies concerning the state of modern day Hollywood? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. If you want to support the channel, please check out the links in the description where you can become a member of the channel, get your name for the end credits of all of our videos, get you access to a bunch of cool emojis, and of course, get you access to all of our member streams where you get to hang out with me and a bunch of other nerds and talk about all kinds of cool, geeky things. So please check out that link in the description down below. All right, from Fandom Pulse and our dear sweet John F. Trent. Actor John Rhys-Davies recently revealed whether he would return to the world of Middle-earth as Gimli in the future Lord of the Rings films. Last May, Rhys-Davies expressed his interest returning to the character of Gimli, albeit if the time spent putting on the character's makeup and prosthetics was reduced. He told Collider, and now given this was last May, so a year ago at the time of recording of this video, "Well, I'm known to not want to put the prosthetics on again, but out of deference to Andy, whom I love and admire, and again, who has grown so much, i.e. Andy Serkis, i.e. Gollum, if they invented, or Smeagol, if they invited me, oh God, could I dare to put on that makeup again and lose my skin? Maybe with CGI." And obviously, you know, Andy Serkis is famous for bringing the character of Gollum to life with a whole motion capture CGI project and all of that other kind of stuff. And we know that technology is highly advanced since that day as well. So obviously, another possibility, a little bit of CGI. This was just last year. Says, before when they asked me to do The Hobbit, for instance, I said no, not at all. Times have moved on and technology has moved on. If I don't have to spend 8 hours a day for 3 years of my life in a makeup chair, I might indeed do it. And that was one of the biggest complaints we've heard about from a lot of actors. I mean, the actress that played Mystique in the original X-Men movies. I mean, she was literally in the makeup chair for like 6 hours a day because they had to do full body paint on her for all of her scenes and everything else. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, for all the jokes we make about actors, about how they're just adult pretenders and all that kind of stuff, that makeup and stuff like that, anybody that's ever had that stuff applied either just for Halloween or anything like that, there's an intensity to that. And especially if you've got even slightly sensitive skin, that stuff will mess you up, especially with the quality of glue you need to actually keep all of those prosthetics secure to your face, especially if you're running and jumping around and doing all the kind of stuff you had to in Lord of the Rings. So yeah, it's a rough time for all of those guys. The other thing is, physically, I am no longer capable of putting 80 pounds of extra armor and stuff on and climbing up mountains. Obviously, everybody gets old, age catches up to all of us, but at the exact same time, once again, technology is advanced. I mean, we've seen cosplayers make incredible things for the Warhammer 40K universe, giant Titanic Space Marine armor and like a Horus Heresy cosplay and all this other kind of stuff. They're able to still walk around with all that kind of stuff. And yeah, you can probably make that stuff out of much lighter materials nowadays to where he'll look just as good, but he's not carrying around an extra 80 pounds. And anybody that's done any rucksack marching or anything like that knows carrying around an extra 80 pounds sucks, man. It sucks. In an interview with Empire back in 2009, Rhys-Davies explained why he turned down the Hobbit movies. There's a sentimental part of me that would love to be involved again. Really, I'm not sure my face can take that sort of punishment anymore. Understandably so. But back in April, just last month, at AwesomeCon in Washington, D.C., Rhys-Davies reiterated his previous comments and said, "I'd do anything as long as I don't have to put on that full prosthetic on again." However, during an appearance at Fan Expo Philadelphia this month, as in May, at the time of recording this video, he seems to have dropped this condition about putting on the prosthetic, saying, "If I'm asked to serve, I will consider it and probably say yes." So there you go, boys and girls. Gimli returns to Lord of the Rings. He is absolutely willing to show up and do it all over again, because guess what? Not only does he have a lot of love for the franchise, not only does he have a lot of nostalgia for his time spent as Gimli, but the fans want him back. That's why they keep asking about this over and over again. And I'm sure it sounds like everything I've heard about this guy, he is absolutely totally in line and in love with his fans, just like so many of the other good celebrities who play these kind of iconic characters are. And if he's willing to go up to a con and willing to show up with fans and deal with them and interact with them, he's either desperate for money or has a love for the fans. And concerning all the money they made off the Lord of the Rings movies, he's probably doing okay. But needless to say, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, it sounds like he is absolutely willing to come back. And as a fan of the Lord of the Rings and all of Tolkien's great work out there, I would love to see Gimli return, as long as they make sure it actually means something to the story, right? It could be one of those member berries thing where he's just like, oh yeah, there's Gimli. Maybe it's, Gandalf talking to Gimli or something like that, because obviously Gandalf's going to have to be involved if you're doing a Hunt for Smeagol kind of thing and stuff like that. He's going to have to obviously be in there. And Ian McKellen already said he'd willingly come back and doesn't want anybody really playing the role other than him anyway. So hopefully Gimli feels the same way. I'd love to see him come back. And like I said, with all the technology advancing the way it is, there's no reason why it would be near as rough on him to do this kind of stuff as what it was literally 20 years ago at this point, boys and girls. So Ryan Davis is not the only one to express interest in returning to Middle Earth. Obviously, Sir Ian McKellen also said the exact same thing out there. He says, well, all I know is that they called me up and said these films were going to happen, mainly about Gollum. Andy Serkis, who played Gollum, is going to direct. And there would be a script arriving sometime in the new year. That's next year. And then I'll judge whether I want to go back. So literally, they've already offered him to come back. He says, but I would love to go back to New Zealand, number one. And also, I don't like the idea of anybody else playing Gandalf. And Ian McKellen is not any young spring chicken by any means out there. So it's one of them situations where a lot of people are excited about this. They basically kind of go back to the direction of what we've already talked about and covered with the Gollum movie, everybody being super excited. Andy Serkis saying he'd really love to expand on that. I think that there's so much more story to tell out there with Gollum and his adventures, because they're only lightly highlighted on in the books. with Gandalf talking about them and stuff like that. So I think that would be a lot of fun too. I like the idea of fleshing that out. I like delving back into the world of Middle Earth with people who actually know and understand it and appreciate the lore and hashtag respect for Tolkien on all of those kind of things. So I'm hoping Andy Serkis does a good job. I'm hoping this returns us to the form we saw, at least some close semblance to what we saw in the original Lord of the Rings movies out there. Obviously, the Hobbit trilogy has its own issues, mostly because they wanted another trilogy, and Peter Jackson was like, you really can't do that, but hey, the money's good, so I'm going to do it anyway, and that's what the studio wants is, and they're the bosses. But like, it's one of them situations where, especially after all of the abysmal abominations we've got, whether it be Rings of Roham, or of course the the War of Roham, Rings of Roham, or the Rings of Power, it's one of them situations where fans of Lord of the Rings deserve to get good quality content and good quality products. And if Gimli's willing to come back, if our dear sweet John Rhys-Davies is willing to come back, then by all means, boys and girls, I am all for it. The guy did an incredible job as Gimli. If they can find a proper role for him that's not just shoehorned in there and actually makes sense for the story, I'd love to absolutely see it. And the best part is, after years of denying that he would come back, after saying over and over again that he wouldn't want to come back because of all of the makeup, now, literally just this month, he is saying, you know what? I'd absolutely do it. If they called me, if they asked, I love Andy, he's great, I'd be there in a heartbeat. And I, for one, boys and girls, hope they find a way to make sure Gimli returns, because he's a great actor. If it makes sense for the story, this could be a wonderful time, and it might actually reinvigorate a Tolkien fan base that has currently been beaten down by the absolute abomination that is Amazon's Rings of Power. So Andy Serkis, I got faith in you, buddy. You got me cautiously optimistic, borderline optimistic, and man, if you bring Gimli back, oh, that will just be an absolute cherry on top of the cake. And ladies and gentlemen, he is willing to do it. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Will Gimli return or not? It's only a matter of time before we find out. But at the end of the day, Andy Serkis and everybody else over there at Warner Brothers, make the fans happy and will make you rich. If not, well, you'll get exactly what you deserve.